What's going on, Internet? This is the Warriors of Light podcast. Today, we've got...
All is resolved, Steve.
You can call me Falfor.
And I am Blake. So today we're going to be talking about a little thing that came across Reddit. It was a poll that was posted by the user, is it Luke? Luc 1054, Luck. So he got us a little bit of data to talk about today, and I just wanted to discuss it with my friends and all of you guys to see exactly how accurate this is, and you know, just what other people's opinions are. So let's see. Let's go here. First we have what's your favorite opus so far? So we got opus 4.
How about we each answer and then we talk about the results? Just throw it out there.
So you want me to restart here? I guess we're
No, you don't got to restart. Let's go with it. I'll start. My favorite opus 5. What about you, Steve?
Oh, it's hard to pick, dude. 4.
How about you,
4?
Brent?
I'm gonna go with 1.
Nice.
Definitely 1.
Cool.
But,
so now you guys know our answers.
22 people would agree.
Oh, you know what?
with
I changed it. Opus 2.
Opus 2? What's so
Yeah.
special about Opus 2?
Well, Warrior of Light, Fusoya, Zemus, Alcid,
Yeah.
Amon, all of that good stuff. Opus 2.
All of the Steven
Oh,
staples.
Emperor.
You
Yeah,
know
all
what?
of my staples come out of that pack.
Was Opus 4 when all the ice support came out?
A lot of ice support
it came out on
from
3
There
too.
you go.
Six
You
cards.
guys are Satan. These 22 people right here are just like pure evil. So
They don't
I
like
see,
this game.
I see.
Maybe they were
what
just
happened
really
here.
happy that Final Fantasy Tactics Advance got some love.
And
Totally,
then,
that was it.
So
Maybe.
and I've got to kind of also agree with the second place here, like Opus 5, man. Opus 5 is really
Opus.
solid. So I think that's a good second place. I think it's the real. I'm just gonna say they're the real winner because they're just cooler than Opus 4.
And then all the Warriors of Light came out of there, which is what we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
God, I
yeah,
love those cards. They were so good.
yeah. But there was 90 people that answered this poll, so I mean, you got. I would have liked 100 just so there would have been around 100%. But 90 isn't bad, and we got 22 on Opus 4, and that's shitty. So, what's currently the strongest archetype? Honestly, I mean, we see here that Mono Ice just blows that out. Out of 91 answers, you
I
get
would
63 votes. Now, I wish with this poll they would have had you like rank them. Like instead of just pick one, then like 63 people voting for Ice, like people ranking.
Like everybody knows ice,
right.
so what's next best?
Yeah, so like people like you get like more accurate data there. But,
Right. And I do want to if we can, I wanted to go through and just note some of the. I mean, I guess they're runners up, even though there's such a vast difference there.
Yeah, no.
Because
What do you
like
got?
right up next to it, you got, just to list these off real quick: Earth, Wind, Ice, Lightning, Mono Lightning, and Scions, and then a little bit touch of Archfiends and Mono Water. Archfiends I haven't really gone up against it myself, can't say much about that, but Earth, Wind, and Scions, you see that topping at a lot of events.
Right.
Of course, Mono Lightning as well. Mono Lightning I almost don't think about because it's always there. To me, Mono Lightning's probably like a solid second place.
Right. I would agree with that. It's just that, man. Yeah. You know, it's no surprise like who wins here, and you know we're gonna talk about Mono Lightning and Fire and the state of the meta a little bit later. Honestly, though, all Earth Wind was actually outvoted, and Ice Lightning outvoted Mono Lightning, which I don't think on a more objective level that's actually correct, but people seem, I guess, to like the Earth Wind and Ice Lightning decks a little bit more.
I mean, that's where you're finding the Dodaluma Cactar. It's
Right.
really strong, and a lot of people love it, myself included.
Yeah,
So
I know you've put it to me quite a bit with that stupid card.
I know. I hate Dodaluma. Like I pull it, I'm like, oh, it's you. I should just tear this up right now. But it's it's like an $8 card, so.
Just light it on
Might as
fire.
trade bait.
All right, so let's see. How strong? This is essentially kind of the same question How strong do you assess the elements after the release of Opus 6? I guess I would, like I said, I would have liked this. I'm assuming. I don't know if this question was pulled out where.
Yeah,
you
I
like
took this poll myself actually.
Okay.
And this one they like each one of these you chose between 1 to 5. So we got everybody's opinion on how strong is ice, how strong is earth, and so on and so forth. Right. So like clear winner. Like people can definitely tell ice is doing really well after Opus 6. It was doing really well in Opus 5, which is to show it kept its powers. So that's going strong, and of course. Not too surprising. Fire there with like less than a 2 out of 5.
Right.
Fire's kind of dragging a bit. Didn't get a lot of love in Opus 6.
Also, something interesting to note here that what is your favorite Opus so far was answered by 90 people, where what is currently the strongest archetype was answered by 91 people. So somebody I guess decided to skip the first first question.
Maybe.
It's really interesting. But yeah, I think these are. And honestly, I don't think light and dark should have been counted here in the ranking, because we know light and dark cards are really, really powerful in general, just because of their unique mechanic. But everything here seems to be pretty on point, like ranked wise: ice, lightning, earth, water coming in over wind, which is interesting. I guess. I mean, I think there's a strong argument for both of these elements. So I would put them. Well, these are rankings, so I would rank them about the same.
Right. Then, what do you think, Steve? How do you feel about the elements after the most recent set? Does this kind of line up with your opinion?
For the most part, yeah. I think Fire Complete is still getting nothing. Let's see. Lightning comes in second. Yeah. I think so. I mean, this is pretty much true. Yeah. Ice and lightning at the top. I think it's so weird that dark is so much more like popular than light, because I run light cards. Yeah. I run one deck with dark cards. And
I know exactly why, and it's that Kamlanot. That Kamlanot searching out the chaos.
Well, I mean, I know why. I see it in more decks than I see more dark in decks than light. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which I think when you see something happen a lot, typically, not always, but typically it represents how powerful something, or at least how useful, or like their utility of something. That Kamlanot Chaos combo is just so strong and so potent, especially because it opens you up to play multicolored decks, and I'm a big fan of seeing that. Like, you want to see more variety in the game.
Absolutely.
I'm a big fan of that. Let's see, what do we have here? What are the 3 strongest cards? So we got Genesis, Wall, and Shannon Toto.
I probably should have written down in my opinion, what the strongest ones would be, but I would agree these are really, really strong cards. Probably, I don't know if strong / broken, if I would count like some things that are borderline unfair, because I probably would put Dodaluma up here just for the potential that it has. But Shantoto definitely, like you always see Shantoto. Wall is just a staple now. Like Astinian even, like Astinian's also really, really strong, seeing that Mono Lightning's like just getting more and more power. And then personally, I guess it's because I haven't used or gone up against Mono Ice. I used Genesis in one of my decks, but it never really shines like the price tag says it should.
Sure.
So I spent like a pretty penny on getting some Genesis, and it hasn't really
maybe it's
pulled its weight, in my opinion.
A little overrated compared to its price tag. It's still a good card. I mean, it's used and represented a lot, and obviously because of that, it's tried and true. I don't know if I would call it the best card in the game, though. I mean, Shantoto is just is so massive, man. Like when Shantoto hits the field, like you just hold your freaking head in your hands, and like, man. And Wall's got a huge cool factor to him, like. He's 8,000, so I mean, he's not super huge, but he's big enough. And then just like all of his battle effects are like super, super awesome.
Right, and they trigger on the attack phase. Like it's a very unique card, and that's one thing that brings up the cool factor. I mean, there's a reason why it's one of the most, if not the most expensive card in the game right now. Right. So it's really cool. All 3 of these usually over $20 each. Like Shantoto's right there at it, Genesis too. But these are some prices.
Now, at the time of this recording, like finding Genesis is becoming hard. I tried to look up some today, so definitely get out there. If your shop sells singles, like dig through them. Maybe there's one hidden, or you know, trade with somebody over the internet, or buy some stuff over a private seller, because these bigger retailers doesn't have them because he's so popular right now. And I don't know if, like, for some of these cards, if the bottom's gonna fall out, or just the nature of how the game is printed at right now. Like, these might become so finite, like there might not be enough to go around. You know, I don't know. I think everything's still being printed, but Genesis is what, Opus 3? Yeah, so it's an older set, so it's gonna be one of the first sets to probably go out of print, because once they start releasing more. And if he's still good, or if they don't ban cards or anything like that, might need one in the future. I
really hope they ever ban cards. That would be ridiculous. Like, that's like one of my favorite things about this game right now, is that they don't have any ban.
Oh yeah, dude, just being able to play whatever the hell I have is all playable is amazing. Like, just because something I think is irritating doesn't make it ban worthy, you know? Like, like, wow.
And they could always issue an errata if necessary.
Right, exactly. And I mean, that's kind of a slippery slope. You don't want to errata everything, but if something's like kind of degenerate, like becoming a real problem, maybe just tagging its text a little bit will help out a lot. So
yeah, and we'll get to that later too.
Right.
I wanted to talk about that a little bit, but why don't we go ahead and move on from the 3 strongest to the 3 worst cards? Final Fantasy TCG.
All right. So honestly, I think, like we were talking, we have a lot to say about this, but we'll start off with, like, I think we should start off with Dark Lord. Yes, he is probably objectively the worst piece of garbage in the game. You know, like,
it's definitely not something you want to pull because it takes up a heroic slot.
Yeah, I pulled some during the pre-release. I'm like, really?
Yeah, he is disappointing. And the thing about it is, like, you think he's gonna make up for his shortcomings, and we're gonna get to this also later on with when talking about Fire, but this is just one more instance of Fire being more take than give.
Yeah.
And oh man, like, I've heard a lot of good arguments for Dark Lord. People like trying, mostly just for the novelty of it, to make it work, make it look really nice, make it function in a deck. And a few tweaks to this card could have made it solid. Right, it may, if not amazing. But for right now, I hate pulling a Dark Lord.
For like Chocobo Chick though, it's not. I don't think. Okay, it's not very great. It's not terrible either though, because, like, imagine using Chocobo Chick on a Zemus, like a dark backup Zemus. Now you get to attack. You have 2 unblockable forwards.
Right.
Yeah, if you could, but I think it only activates a fire backup. If I'm not mistaken.
Choose one to fire backup. Yeah, you're right.
When you,
it could be good in the future.
When you did this poll, like, when it, like, 3 worst cards, it just had all the cards listed.
No,
and then you clicked it, or did you just type it out?
I'm gonna be honest, I can't remember. It was a little bit too long ago. I want to say it had us write it in, if I'm not mistaken. Because, like, if you look in there, like, they have like a point system. I don't know. Like, this can't be just separate votes. They had to issue points based on first, second, or third choice, but there's like 426 points on this. So a lot of people put Dark Lord in their top 3 and Chocobo Chick. And I think moving on to Jet is probably, I'm surprised to see it in 3rd, because there's so many other things that are also terrible. But Jet is one of those where everybody, it might not be the worst card in the whole game, but it's one of the most disappointing, because people thought it was going to be better, and here it is, the first set. Here's a legend card, Fire, and it's just
Yeah.
So it's just the definition of Fire.
Yeah. I mean,
well, I don't really think it's that bad either, though. I mean, it's just the same thing as, like, Light Cloud. You know, that's not bad. I mean, he doesn't have Brave, and he's cost 1 more. But
yeah. And it's it's not the worst card. I mean, some of the worst cards, like, I can't think of any off the top of my head without someone probably in the comments being like, actually, it's this. But there's plenty of commons and standard units that are just not good that I don't want to run. But these are definitely, like, out of, like, ignoring Chocobo Chick. If you look at Dark Lord and Jet, those are 2 heroic or above level cards that are just very, very disappointing.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Like, the disappointment level on these cards are really high. honestly, looking back at Chocobo Chick is I noticed it's not a standard unit, and I think that's one thing that's like, well, this is a standard unit type card, and it's not even a standard unit. I mean, what the hell is the point? You know?
Yeah, it's like they're really focusing on this being the chick from Saz's Fro. Like this is the one right here.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, just a big disappointment out of a card is just really, really irritating. So, yeah, all right, I kind of see where people are coming from on this one. Yeah, I also want to kind of see how they ran the points on this, but I think it's an accurate representation of maybe not like objectively the worst cards, but definitely the most disappointing and they're definitely useless. So.
Right, because if you want to go for objectivity, like the objectively worst, then yeah, we could find that. Yeah. But this speaks volumes here that this is what people chose. This is people voiced this to say these are the worst. So get that out there.
All right, so next we have here, and this is kind of a fun one, is what's your guilty pleasure card? And there's really no surprise here. You know, this light cloud. Like people really, really like cloud just in general.
Mm-hmm.
So
and it's a decent enough card. I mean, Steve, you ran that today whenever we were playing, and I remember playing against you. You got a lot of use out of that card in some of our matches.
We have, yeah. It's actually like that's my updated 7th deck. Runs like 3 of those, and it's really good. It's a really, really good card. Except it didn't really kept like I got the early shutdown with the Emperor this morning, so I didn't really get to use his amazingness on Blake today.
Yeah,
but how dare you? But yeah. It's a fun card. My guilty. I know Scott Falfor's guilty pleasure card.
Yeah.
It would definitely be Daluma.
And I think yours would be Fusoya.
Yeah.
Am I right?
It is.
We're both. We know each other well enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. Mine would definitely be Daluma.
Blake, what about you? You have a guilty pleasure card?
Guilty pleasure cards. I mean, I guess I don't have one. Like who?
Exodus.
Exodus is not a guilty pleasure. I love that card, and I don't feel bad about it at all. No, it's a really good card. I mean, I guess I just like cards that are my favorite characters. Like it's like the Riku's. You know, Riku's is totally Bae from Final Fantasy X. Mm-hmm. And then I don't know, and I like anything with mono art. So no matter how terrible it is, they could give me like a 12-drop 1000 with no effects with a nice mono art on it, and I would love it to death. So.
I'm really excited for them. I really hope he does Cloud and Sephiroth in a mono art because he's done them. He has art for them. The mono Sephiroth is amazing.
I didn't think about that. That'd be awesome.
It would be really cool.
That'd be so good.
That'd be awesome. And now this is something I really, really wanted to talk about. Was this next one kind of FFTCG enthusiast are you? 88 people. So we lost people in this one, and I think this might have been like the most important, or one of the most important questions here. So we started at 90, got up to 91, we got down to 85. Like,
yeah, I don't know how this.
But anyway, so collector, casual player, competitive player, content creator, and I'm just here to rant again.
I think that one said I'm just here to rant again against Ice and Dodaluma, but I can't remember for sure. So I think that's what that option was. But don't quote me because it's been a while. But yeah, as you can see, like most people, or the majority would be competitive player. And keep in mind, like this isn't a one or the other. This was a multiple answer thing, I think. Because these percentages don't add up to 100. They add up to a little bit more because you got 3 things over 50%.
So this wasn't a one answer thing.
Right, yeah, this was a multiple choice.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
You can pick multiple. And yeah, most people are competitive players, and
I'm actually just here to rant about Ice and Daluma.
We know.
I'm happy to know that it was you could pick multiple things because I was under the impression it was a pick one. And I was like, well, this makes for bad data because content creator and just here to rant again is just a throwaway and they really don't matter. And then okay, well that's cool.
Yep.
So at least there's a high competitive player. So unfortunately, casual players, like while they're important to the game, they're not going to keep the game around. Like, you know, they're going to buy cards which pours money, and then but competitive players are going to be your squeaky wheels. That's really is like people coming out to bitch are gonna keep the game around because, well, then the company has to listen to you. Whereas the casual player, they're like, well, I just play this for fun. If it stops being fun, they pack up and leave.
Right.
And then I do like to see a high amount of people consider themselves collectors because these cards are really, really cool. So we know that like the game will stick around just because of its collectible value. And I think the art on these cards and like their cool factor is insane. And like it's honestly, I think out of all the card games I've played, like it's got the that collector factor has the biggest draw to me. And that's kind of what got me looking at it. And then you guys kept playing it. And I was like, well, I'll give it a shot once more, and like I really, really got into it. But
yeah, that's the best draw of this, is that it gets people in with their either interest or love for Final Fantasy, and it hooks them and keeps them here with a solid game.
Yeah.
Like, this is a damn good game, and I was really surprised by it. Like whenever I first kind of got into it, I was like, okay, let's try the Final Fantasy trading card game. Everybody has a trading card game these days. And then I played it. I'm like, oh, this is actually really good. This put a lot of thought into this. This is all right. Let's get this going. This has potential. So got me into it.
What do you guys? What would y'all pick on this list?
I mean, the top three ones definitely. It's starting at competitive player. I don't really consider myself a casual player, but I don't know, because like I want to go to. I mean, we do. I mean, because we haven't had any tournaments except for that one in Lafayette, but that was sealed. So, but
we're starving for competitive events.
Right.
Like we would definitely be hardcore competitive if we had the options.
Yeah.
But collector definitely, because like I really love this series too. Like I remember being like 12 years old in the card shop, my very first card shop, and there being Final Fantasy action figures around me, and we were playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be really cool if they had Final Fantasy cards? That would be so cool. Like, oh, they would be like this, and then like a couple years, later, Japan's like, we're working on a Final Fantasy card game, and now here we are, 2018, and we're a couple years in, and it's like after I got out of Yu-Gi-Oh! And Naruto, because those were the two card games that I played mostly, I was really, really, really casual with Magic. Like, I'm not going to do card games anymore. They cost way too much. And then here I am. So
yeah, and it's a great time to get into it. Good prices on things. You can get competitive without breaking the bank, and it's just perfect for us right now, which I really am thankful for.
Yeah, I think definitely. Well, what about you, man? Like, where do you see? What did you answer when you filled out this poll? Which ones did you pick?
It was probably those three as well. Like I want to be a content creator, and I guess because we're recording this, I technically am, but definitely those. And I wasn't really there just to rant about Ice and Dataluma. I don't want to rant about it. I will agree. Those things are kind of problems, but definitely I want to be competitive. I want to go to events. I wish there were more options around here. I know plenty of people out there reading off Facebook pages and Reddit and things. They have local events. It might not even be events, but just local meetups every week where they'll get a dozen or so people, and they really get to test out their decks against a bunch of people. And for us, it's less than a dozen at best. And we're lucky to get enough people. We would be lucky to get enough people to go for a draft or something. We're starving for support both competitively and casually in this area.
Right. I would say that, like, obviously I'm a really competitive person, so I consider myself a competitive player. But even if I stop being a competitive or casual player, I think I might always be a collector. Like, they keep pumping out, like, the type of art that's on these cards, and, like, kind of some of the cooler swag and things like that. Like, I think I'll see myself, like, picking up some things that are really pleasing to my eyes.
Right.
So.
See, me and Falfor were wearing these Final Fantasy shirts today. Where was yours?
I don't know what shirt.
I
got the up-class, like, Hawaiian thing, man. This is like one of my favorite shirts, hands down.
Jake would be very proud of you.
Shout out to JCPenney, thanks. Got this on clearance.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like, and it's cool. I think it's a solid representation of people, but it's cool to see that there's a competitive one. All right, let's I guess we'll move on to the next deal here. How satisfied are you with FFTCG in general? So the overall scope, and there's an 84 out of 100. I guess you just maybe listed it. I don't know how this.
Yeah, I think it was just what percentage of satisfaction are you at? What would yours be, Blake? How satisfied are you so far?
Like right now, I guess I'm the newest out of all of us. Man, I'm really coming from a really degenerate format in Yu-Gi-Oh, like I might be 120 right now just because of how refreshing this damn game is. And I think that's what like a lot of people like seeing on Reddit and in Facebook and things like that is like this, not only this game but this community is really really refreshing, with the exception of the one little deal we had on Facebook earlier, which that's going to come with anything. Like people are generally really nice and really trying to build the community, build everyone up, and instead of just talking shit about the next guy. At the end of the day, you might come over and whoop the hell out of me, but I know that guy's going to shake my hand and we're going to go again and we're going to laugh about it and he's going to help me fix my deck. And, I feel really welcome. And as far as just mechanically the game, the fun of the game, man, it's great, man. I'd rate it A+, 90 plus. It's awesome.
Community is a really important part that you were saying there too, because like I did some Facebook trading a couple weeks ago. Was it on? Pulled a foil Zidane, foil legendary on the new set. I'm like, oh my god, this is great trade bait. I can put it up for Justinian. I kind of felt like that I was going to send this card off to trade, and I wasn't going to get anything back. When my Justinian showed up in the mail, I was happy camper. So, yeah. So faith in humanity. It was good. I've only had positive interactions online with people.
Yeah.
In this game. So.
Yep, I would agree. The community's been great. Even there's been some recent posts addressing some of the more negative aspects. Just the little bit that's cropping up. They like some of the bigger names wanted to immediately be like, hey, we noticed some people are getting a little negative in here. Let's try to keep that down. And they try to keep everything positive as much as possible, and that's great. And as far as like the TCG in general, I would say 90 to 100. It's an A for me. It's a great game. We're waiting kind of right now. I guess we're waiting to see the next set, Opus 7 and potentially Opus 8, just kind of see how the next couple of sets round out the game, just kind of balance it, because like as we're about to get into talking about ice and fire and stuff, we're trying to see how they're going to balance it. And in a game with elements like this, you would assume each one would be kind of close to being balanced. It's okay if there's a front runner, but right now it seems like one is way ahead and the other one is way in the back. So it would be 100 out of 100, but because we have those problems, it's it's still an A. Still great for me.
Right. Yeah. That's good. I mean, especially because you've been playing it a lot longer than. Well, y'all two kind of started around the same time, but y'all been playing a lot longer than I have. So it's good to see like through y'all's journey that it's still great. It's still a cool place to be. And the game's relatively new. I mean, it's a young game, so it's what it needs to grow, is like a positive atmosphere and a lot of place to grow.
Right, and nothing's broken right now.
Right.
There are some things that are drastically stronger than others, but in here we're not saying like ice being the best. Like, yeah, ice is the best just in general, but it still can be beaten. It's just shown the most consistency, and that's a good thing. The system hasn't just crashed because ice is just impossible to go up against. So,
right.
That's
cool.
Good for the game in general.
Right. All right. So, yeah, I think it's a good representation. 84, I think is very, very fair. I'm assuming this might be 84%, or at the very least it's 84%, because if it's 84 out of 89.
I think it's
rating.
The average is 84. Yeah,
84. So I mean that's a very very fair score. Definitely, it's hard. I think it'd be hard to rate a game at an 84. So, and good to see it there. But don't forget, community's just as important as mechanics and the meta. So, let's see.
Absolutely.
We got number 9 here. So number 9, which is a big ass list of just suggestions. What is currently missing in the FFTCG? What do you wish for in future sets? Now these are interesting. So if anyone takes time and they read through all this, there's 2 things that people bitch about a lot, and it's Fire's weak, and ice, and dole, and discards, and blah blah blah. We're gonna take all that and we're gonna pin it over here because we're gonna come down to the end. But the first suggestion this guy has, and this really wants to be a discussion I kind of really want to talk about. He says regen health, counterspell, better fire. Well, better fire. More support for archetypes and titles, specifically 11, which is weird. So that's interesting. Like this person's wanting additional mechanics, but like suggesting counterspell. It's like, well, there is a game that has counterspell. You can play Magic to get a counterspell, and then regen health. I think he's meaning player damage.
Yeah, that's what he means. And in the now I'm operating off of limited knowledge here. I could be wrong, but in the original chapters games, there was at least one card which would either extend your health, make it so you could take 8 damage instead of 7. I don't know. I'm not saying there's not any, but I don't know if there were any that took away damage. But right now, in fact, I think it was the card that was released in the set called Matt. He's I think a 6-drop monk right now that searches for another monk. Like, it's a completely different set than what was in the original chapter series. And so instead of giving you up to 8 damage to receive, he just does something completely different with monks.
Okay.
So because of how the game's structured, I think it's a little bit difficult because we have just solid numbers, 7 damage, or in draft case it's 6, but we have solid numbers, so anything that regens health would be really powerful potentially. Right. So I think that's why they haven't worried too much with that so far.
Yeah, I would really agree. Like, when it comes to, like, there's not a need to regen health. Like, sometimes, like, because there's a flow of the game. I mean, sometimes, I can get a lot of damage out quick, but a lot of times it comes down to 1 or 2 damage in a game. And there's a lot of times, and you're really good at this, you get knocked down to 5 or 6, and you come back and win it, and when you're down. This game is really good for that. So I don't see needing to regenerate health or player damage. I'm assuming that's what he's talking about, because you regen, or damage goes away at the end phase. So
right.
So yeah, needing player damage to come back, or to take that, and then you have to think about what are you going to do with the card that's in that's in
also
the damage zone. So yeah, I mean, maybe, I mean, man, the only way you could do it is if you had a card that took a card from your damage zone and like added it to your hand.
Add it to your hand or remove it from the game. Maybe.
Remove it from the game. I don't know.
So it just kind of like reduces it, but yeah, it's. I don't know. It's very touchy. I don't have the knowledge myself to figure out how to balance it. It would be interesting to see, but I would approach it cautiously.
Yeah, I don't think it's needed, personally.
Yeah, I don't think
it's totally fine. What about you, Steve? Do you agree, disagree?
I kind of going on a different tangent. I see there's someone in here countering with how they want more fire cards that work like ice. Like, it would be amazing if there were some fire cards that would specifically fire cards that would counter ice. So you got this high tier deck right now. Make fire better, and fire will be the one deck that always advantages over the deck that always has bench or everything else. So that'd be cool. Final Fantasy 15 cards, Kingdom Hearts cards, like we've been talking about today. Definitely 15 cards though. I see a lot of. I would like to be able to have more cards that would shuffle cards directly back into your deck, kind of like a Pot of Avarice from Yu-Gi-Oh, where it take 5 cards. Shuffle back into your deck, draw 2. That would be awesome. Right. I mean, that'd be OP as shit, but
yeah, or just something that shuffles my deck. Like, a lot of times, like, if I get a backup to just search something out, like, I'm like, oh, thank you, because I know, especially if you mulligan. I mean, those 5 cards are gone. They're pretty much lost to the wind because you just threw them on the bottom of your deck. But if you search something out, well, I got to shuffle, so they're essentially back in the game, and I'd like to see that, but
Right.
A judge program, which is apparently a big problem. We haven't done a whole lot of competitive stuff, so we haven't really dealt with that. But
right.
Yeah, shops seem to have to rely on just the seemingly most knowledgeable person to do these things. And like, of course, at the big events like that Square and like stuff put on, they have some things set up. But yeah, local stuff, it's really just a matter of who knows the most.
Right. And
calling some of the shots.
Unfortunately, that's probably the guy that's the most competitive and he wants to play.
Right. So it's hard for him to be like sitting out as an objective observer. He's usually in the thick of it playing as well. But I want to say while you're looking, Blake, I saw something that caught my eye, and I guess we'll just kind of before we get into Fire and Ice, we'll just kind of like pick some things
out here.
Like and Final Fantasy X summons and things like that. Final Fantasy X summons.
We were just talking about this.
Right, and I see like way down below it says more Type 0, more Rebels, and that just goes into just more everything, like more archetype support. We are super excited because there's so much left. Like not only can they print multiple different types of the same character, you know, Cloud's got a bunch of cards, Lightning's got a bunch of cards, but there's still so many characters that they haven't touched yet. So I'm so excited about the future potential. Like I want to see all these obscure characters. I think I was telling you today, like I pulled a foil easel from Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. And I was like, man, he's in Final Fantasy Tactics Advance 2 as well. I would love to see a great new card with him in it. Like all this options that they have. There are specifics that I would love to see, namely the Final Fantasy X summons. But I'm just really excited at what new things they'll have in the future.
Yeah, definitely, man. Like I would totally agree with that. Yeah, well, you know, they're like Final Fantasy X summons, like you don't just like count that out because somebody, you know, like they're gonna push sets with cards like this. That's the point I'm trying to make here. Yeah, they're gonna push sets with new cards. So I mean, don't worry about that. I mean,
it's coming.
Your favorite guys are probably on their way, man, and you're probably gonna buy the shit out of the product to get them. So I mean, don't worry about that.
I got a couple more things. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, just like we saw in Opus 2, had a lot of rare, like I think common and rare Final Fantasy 12 summons, and then Opus 3 had like some heroic and legendary Final Fantasy 12 summons. So it was cool to see like multiple sets like support, you know, a similar theme, and it just makes me excited to see what we get in the future.
What I was gonna say is possibly getting cards out of your damage zone and putting them in, like even just swapping them with something in your break zone. Like if I could if I go through all my Odins and like I want my Odins again, that would be great. I mean, it would probably be broken as hell, but that would something would be kind of cool because like once they're in there's no way to get them back once they're in the break zone.
That's a good point.
But
that would be a really I like that idea more than just removing health
damage.
or removing damage. Like being able to switch with what you have out there. Like the system already with the EX burst, they already help to cushion the damage you take. So if you get a good EX burst, I don't like to say you're being rewarded for playing badly because it's just part of the game is taking damage. But the idea of, well, I have all this damage here. What if I could recover one of those options and it give you all these choices to pick from? I like that as an idea. That's really cool, Steve.
And then my other thing that it's in the list already, spells. So in there, they're set in the way of like Slow, Tornado, Berserk, Confuse, Petrify, Poison, Curaga, Fire Ground. Like more cards like the Light Cloud, where because Light Cloud has 2 special abilities. One of them is Biyorian or whatever, and the other one is Slash. So if you had more cards that did more effects, like I don't know, like I'm thinking of which one in the Final Fantasy IV game, Palom or Porum? Which one's the healer?
Oh yeah. Man, I hated that part of that game. You had to go through by yourself.
Okay. Can't remember.
Like I'm just thinking of like maybe more cards with healing abilities. Like this card can't be broken this turn, or this card can't be take any damage. And there are cards out there that are like that already, but like maybe like I don't know, monsters that did that or backups that did that would break afterwards or something. You know, like you could do like a Curaga backup card or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
it would be interesting. They could either introduce a new card type, like I mean, they introduced monsters. You know, what if they introduced spells in general? That would be. Or also,
somebody mentioned here items. It's a huge part of
crazy.
Final Fantasy.
That would be
potions, high potions, Phoenix down. You know, eye drops. Just all the antidotes and things
I think
like
they
that.
could. So they're setting up this way, like we were talking about this in the last set that came out, that they're setting up for more backups to hit the field. Because they have cards that say more than 5 backups, 5 or more backups, remember. Yeah. So maybe they're setting that up so you can do that, so you can, you know, use your backups to, as, you know, mana to use these items or spells. I don't know. I mean, I feel like that would also make the deck a lot more complicated to build because you're only allowed 50 cards. I don't know.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see. Yeah, like there's so many things that they could do, and I could sit here all day theory crafting, but it would be neat to see something like you're allowed 2 items in your deck, and it could be, out of all these other items that they introduce in the future, or if they had equipment and stuff. I'm hesitant to say they should, because right now the game's got a good balance, and they could just ride out the whole life cycle of the game with just characters.
Yeah, the game does play really well. Like, it doesn't need these things. They would make...
It would be interesting.
Yeah, like, but I don't feel stagnant playing the game right now. Like, I don't need them to introduce a new mechanic for me to, like, show up and play every week. I do that on my own because I like the game.
I agree.
So that's I don't know. Like, they'll probably hold on to that, and then when shit gets boring, they'll probably release it. They'll probably release something new.
Yeah.
But I think they're good points. Like, but maybe these people out here are bored, and they want to see these new rules, and especially these are all suggestions based off of things they see in the video games. So I mean, it makes sense, except for like the counterspell thing. Like, you're wanting something from another game. I don't think that's healthy. But like, items
with the way our
status
stack works.
I'm sorry, what? I was talking over you.
I'm sorry, I tried to jut in there. With the way our stack works, and like with the abilities going off, even if like the source moved and things like that, counterspell would, like, everything in this game with a built-in counterspell is quite strong.
Right.
Being able to counter is in this game. It's just for specific special cards.
Yeah, I think a lot of times stopping like a summon or an ability is huge. It's so huge, and just having a cheap way to do it, I don't think it's very, very healthy for the game. But this guy here,
anyway,
he was talking about, I wish there was more support for locals similar to what other trading card games do, such as DBS providing playmats, trophies for locals, or Friday Night Magic. So they're kind of talking about prize support and just general fun events, right? Just not always being competitive, but just a good old time events that causes a boost in sales. So when you show up to Friday Night Magic, you're buying stuff, or you show up to these events to buy product essentially. And I think that's good. And we are well, at the time of this poll, I don't think it was happening, but they are doing more promo cards, and they're doing the dice. So that's something that's probably not very expensive to manufacture, and people love dice. I love dice. I want them. I want them a lot. But I think at the time of this poll, this was a really, really good thing to throw out there, because prize support really, really drives a game, because people love free shit.
Yeah, yes, they do. I do.
I do.
I want that foil wall so bad.
Yeah.
Let's see, and then we see a lot of Final Fantasy 15, guys. It's probably coming. Just hold your horses. It's probably
apparently complicated though.
Yeah, as of now, there's really no telling. They could get it sorted out, and it's coming in the set after the next, or we may potentially never see it. I don't know. We just have to hold out hope.
So I see this here. It's like they want, I guess, more centralized support, such as clear communication from Square Enix. This is all done by Hobby Japan, right? Like, is it licensed from Square?
I honestly am not sure. They like Hobby Japan and Square both. I've seen their names in other posts about things, so I think they're working very closely together. Okay. Like Square, I wouldn't be surprised, is being very hands-on and careful with their properties.
Yeah, and they keep talking about judge programs, which they have on their main website. They have something about a judge program, but I'm not entirely sure what that means. But yeah, like getting people that want to judge. I'm sure there's people out there that want to just be really knowledgeable of the game and judge. Other games I've played, like, the people who wasn't exactly the best competitive players knew the rules really well, so if you had questions, they could tell you exactly how an interaction worked. So yeah, I mean, definitely judges are cool, and I don't know, I haven't been to, I need to make a trip out to like a Crystal Cup or something like that, just to see how that's handled, because these might be people that are going to these big events and seeing an issue with judging and things like that. So I hope they get that sorted out, because I think it's important to have people to go to ask questions on the fly,
Right.
shuffling break zone back into the library. Yeah, it's just another,
That would be very strong. Yeah.
Yeah, right now, man. Like you want like some of these things people want are just really really strong, man. You would definitely be putting yourself at a pretty serious advantage, and like things like that lead to really degenerate combos and like fuckery. So we have it causes an issue.
Yeah, I don't want any more Mateus. No more.
Right, yeah, shuffling just you.
How many more Omnis Slashes do you need to take to be,
Yeah, we'll just break your blocker there.
I'm just gonna use that lightning ability where I'm gonna destroy 2 of your cards several more times this game.
One thing I've seen things like whenever they mentioned counterspell, whenever they mentioned like moving break zone into library. It seems to be fitting a theme of give us stuff that we see from other TCGs.
Right.
And in a way, like, yes, it would be nice because people are used to these kinds of things. And at the same time, I like that Final Fantasy TCG is kind of its own thing. It does borrow a lot from some other things because if it works, it works. And you can't, reinvent the wheel. But, you can't reinvent the wheel and it be a new thing. But you know what I mean. So as of now, power seems to be going out. As of now, it's just a matter of we got to wait and see what comes out in the next few sets before. I know this is the 6th set, so you never know what is coming next, and we've got a good idea of what's out there now. But I think, like you said before, the game itself can continue on its own without too much big changes.
Right.
It still keeps itself fresh with new characters.
Yeah, like they don't need new mechanics. You don't need to invent new rules for the game. Just give us cards that do things a little bit differently and keep things a little bit more interesting as thing goes on. Because you don't want to push a huge power creep, and just you don't want to transform your game into something else and then everyone's gonna hate it. Right. It's happened to me with previous card games. Other card games I've played aren't the same. And I go back and I'll play them. I'm like, this is not what I remember playing, or at least, so
it's not what got you into it at all.
Yeah, so I'm like, well, I'm done, thanks. Also, I just want to kind of mention this guy here, Banner Errata the Emperor 2-147L. Its effect is too powerful against many decks, but even worse, it's not fun to play against. We were kind of talking about the day when I was using it. It is kind of an anti-fun deck. I mean, not deck card, but it's really not hard to out. So
not too hard now.
Yeah, it's
like it's not broken. That's like what I was saying before. There aren't too many, or if any, broken cards. It's still just difficult and you don't always have an answer for it.
Yeah, like in the Emperor's specific case, it's highly irritating, and I get it's irritating, but it's not degenerate. It's not Ellen DeGeneres. It's not. It's not crazy powerful. It's not what you guys are making it out to be, or what this person's making it out to be. It's just that you play against it a lot and you haven't solved the puzzle. Take time to solve the puzzle. Look at what you got, look at what's out there, and see how you solve the puzzle, and keep doing that. But any other things that you guys might want to see in the game come to the game?
Let's see.
Sin from Final Fantasy X as monsters. That'd be kind of cool.
What is monsters?
Sin from Final Fantasy X.
Sin, yes.
Yeah,
that would be awesome. That'd be a cool card.
The Sin spawn to go with it. I like that idea.
Are we gonna get Yevon as well?
Yevon is a little tick of a card. Just, oh man, there's no telling. I'm excited to see what comes next. That also might be what some people are saying. They were disappointed about Jet. Like, so far, Jet's only got the one card, and it's his Dissidia card. Like, there's nothing from Final Fantasy X. And I saw one person here's like more Final Fantasy X, not 10-2, 10. I want more Tidus and Jet. And it's like, I get that. Like, I love 10. I love 10-2. I'm one of those people who really enjoyed it. But I also love 10. 10's probably one of my favorite games of all time. So I would, of course, love more from that. I guess they have to balance it out, because if you do a lot of 10, you can't then also do a lot of 10-2, because they're too similar, and they would be a bit stale for the people who don't care for either.
Right, and they gotta have, like, man, 10's got so much iconic stuff. I think that's what people really want, because the content that's there just isn't, living up, So, but they gotta have a laughing scene card, right?
Oh my god, yes.
That
is a special ability.
I have
kills all your opponents.
Let's go around. I want to say, like, if you can pick one character that you want to see in the next set, like, who would it be? And I don't mind right now, just because I just love the character. I want to see Clasco, the Chocobo guy from Final Fantasy X/10-2. I want to see him and make him awesome for Chocobos. Like, don't break the game, of course, but make him to where you want him in a Chocobo deck. Like, I want to see that. What about you,
Steve?
Come back to me.
Okay. All right. Well, he said Sin, which is kind of stuck in my head, but my favorite summon of all time is Anima. I want Anima.
That would be cool. That would be so cool.
Badass.
What would he be? Would he be like, what element would he be?
He'd probably be, she'd probably be
awesome. Dark.
I would assume a dark card, yeah.
But
and it'd probably
there are no dark summons, are there?
No,
yeah, there's one.
Zodiart.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Ultima for light.
Right,
but I can see an effect right now. I'll paint you a picture because of her like Oblivion ability, when like you go upside down, she starts punching everything. Have it to where like she deals like X amount of damage for every like damage you've received or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Or pain would be just
pain.
Really just instantly kill something. Like
yeah.
They have a lot of options for multiple cards.
Could be, I mean, they have multiple Ultimas, but Ultima's my favorite summon,
Anima.
What called? What did I say?
Aeon. Oh, you said Ultima, but Ultima, yeah, I knew you meant.
Anima. Also, any of the weapons from Final Fantasy VII. All the, really tough
really
ones.
Fun to see.
Yeah. I want, the card that I would pick would just, I mean, I really want 15 cards. Lucian. All of the the guards, the kings, the royal guards. I mean, even what are they called? Kingsglaive. You got Arden. Like, there's so many good characters in 15.
Yep. That'd be so good.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And then
one last thing I would like to see out of the game would be some more stuff with removal, because I really want to build an X Death deck.
There's a lot of removal.
Oh yeah.
Like remove from play. Like,
more
of it.
Yeah. I got what you're saying. Yeah, like making remove from play a viable mechanic essentially instead of
that's the death of ice right there.
Yeah.
Good luck to
play their cards right. They could just add a few small cards that would just support some of these things right now without having to. You don't have to waste but you don't have to use a legendary slot in the set to do these things. Like, just add these little bit of supports here and there, and as we go, like with the Chocobos, like Chocobo gets support like almost every set, so over time it builds up into something really nice.
Yeah, and Moogles are kind of the same way,
and Dragoons even. We saw with the most recent set.
They've been wanting Dragoon support for the longest time, and this set finally gave it what they need.
Yeah, they gave it that boss monster that just
that boy's real. Big old boy.
Boy.
I think it's all good suggestions. I think it's solid cards for the future. All right, let's see. What's number 10? What's the greatest danger to FFTCG? This is a good one.
I think that there might have been like a type in spot, so we can just ignore that.
Yeah. Bad card quality, lack of advertisement, which is the biggest one. I really want to talk about that. And inaccessibility, price, which is really low, and then lack of support and imbalanced archetypes.
That's probably the most important, like, gameplay wise, and almost everything else says the same thing. We need support for the game. We need more players, and how do you get more players? You advertise. How do you keep players? You support. And then how do you get, even if they know about the game, you got to make it accessible. Like, all this goes together to say,
inaccessibility is a huge one.
Everything.
Not everyone's as lucky as we are. We had to beg to get card shops to have Final Fantasy cards here. Me and Fellow 4 went into our local card shops like twice a week.
Yeah.
You stocking Final Fantasy cards yet? You stocking Final Fantasy cards? We'd call him on the phone. You stocking Final Fantasy cards yet? What did he do? He started stocking Final Fantasy cards, and guess what? He sold out.
They sold. Yeah, they sell. Like he even they started selling, and he broke a couple boxes open to get singles. You know.
Now we have
And
one
those
of
are
each
sold too.
Opus. It's great.
Yeah.
We are
Yeah.
very, very lucky to have a card shop that supports us. Two even. There's two in our area. One has one of every Opus. The other one ordered 2 boxes and seems to be ordering more. And so get out there and ask. Of course, like don't berate them, don't annoy them. Just ask them. Just
Be polite about it.
Yeah. Like one of our card shops has comics, so we'd go in, check out the new comic, be like, oh, okay, I guess I'll check out this comic. Hey, by the way, did you get in that box of Final Fantasy cards yet? Because he said he was ordering it. So just let them know there's interest, and then of course talk amongst your friends and get the support going. So if you have a group of people to play,
Right.
If you build it, they will come. That kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's really fair points, man. And you know, if you put something in these people's shops that make them money, you know, they're going to be more than happy to support you in your endeavors for the game. But I think the one thing here, this lack of advertisement as the greatest danger, I think is a pretty solid assessment, because I only know it existed because somebody told me about it. And I search a lot of Final Fantasy stuff in Google, and I don't see any targeted ads. I think I get targeted ads for TCG Player from time to time, and that's just about their shop. It doesn't show me anything about Final Fantasy. So
Right.
I don't think they're really hitting the media out there and trying to make people aware.
I only knew it existed because of well, they did a couple things on their main website about Final Fantasy TCG, very, very few things, but I only really knew a lot of anything about it at all because I got Dissidia, you know?
Right, yeah, they had the promo cards in Dissidia.
That helped a lot. Mm-hmm. That did. Like that's how you advertise. Give us free cards. Like throw out like let people know, put it in your games. That's a great idea, and they nailed it. So they just got to keep it up.
Yeah, I'm not really a player of the game, but like put it up on like Final Fantasy 14's microtransaction page, or you know they always have the stupid pop-ups when you log in. Pop it up, throw a little pop-up. Oh, this is going on. You X out of it, it's gone. But I mean,
there's a lot of really great 14 cards, so just put it on there. It's like love Y'shtola, check her out.
Yeah, you know. I think getting the game out there is going to be really important, because right now, as far as I know, it's on the shoulder of the players to advertise this game and get people in their local shops to play, and you know, their friends to play, which kind of sucks. We're seeing a couple of packs and GameStops now. They're carrying some cards, so maybe that'll drive a bigger fan base.
Target too. Not our Target. I don't think our Target does.
I've seen a few. Yeah, our Target has Opus 4.
Oh, do they really?
4 packs.
Ew, that's disgusting.
Why? Someone biased? Oh, it's because Opus 4. Okay.
Yeah, so Opus 4.
He just doesn't like it.
Yeah.
I was just saying, he just not like bougie white people because they all shop at Target.
Dude, I worked at Target for like 3
years. I know.
It was one of the best.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought your bias was.
No. It was Opus 4. But yeah, man, they just gotta get it out there, man. They gotta let people know that this exists, and like Square can't act like they don't have money, you know, 'cause they definitely have it. And then lack of support. People were talking about like we talked about, like the price support and things like that. And that's going to come with time. Really, like as the game becomes more successful, they'll be more once the money is really going in, they'll be definitely able to handle that out, because it is expensive, mats and like this stuff, because they have to produce a lot of it, and that's an investment that they have to hope to really see a return on. So I don't blame them where they're at on this too much. I mean, yeah, it's kind of conservative idea to like really hold your money back like that and not try to invest in your own game, but like I get it, like I really do. And
one thing, I mean, Square, if you're listening, give us some official product. Like, give us some official playmats. Give us some official sleeves. Like, we have some official sleeves, which are really cool. Some people complain about some of their quality, so make sure they're up to par.
To be fair, they do have dock boxes and they do have playmats. Those are all official.
Yeah, and like there are some. It's just, I guess, not
a lot, and they're not available.
Like, Chinese community, like there's so many on eBay that are unofficial. Of course, always support official. But there's so many other out there who are like, oh, this would be great. I really wish this was official so I could, support the game I like and not buy one of their standard black mats with the like
Yeah.
deck zone, break zone, and stuff. Like, give me some art, give me some cool stuff. You have access to all of this.
Yeah, they have some, but they're just really hard to find. They have they have the Cloud versus Sephiroth one, which is their first one. They have the Final Fantasy 6 one.
Tidus and Yuna ones that they got going around. They have the playmat of it, and they also have
do
the
they?
deck boxes. Yeah, it's beautiful artwork.
Oh yeah, you're right. I know which one you're talking about. It's the cover of the HD remaster, right?
I think.
Right, were they like 69?
Were they like
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like upside down. Yeah, and
then the other one was they just did it in the Minfilia. The new Minfilia. But they're impossible to get.
All of it. Like yeah,
they don't
produce this stuff. Give us a way to buy it. Give it to us.
Yep.
Where we're asking for it.
Money's sitting on the table. So, I mean, if people are paying hundreds of dollars for this to buy it from some random guy, I mean, imagine, you know, you sell it at a retail value and, you know, people will be more likely to pick it up. So
just have it available online. Put it on their website. They have so much stuff on their Square Enix website.
They actually don't even have an official website to buy anything.
No,
Yeah,
it could also be a problem.
Well, you have the Square Enix store. And
They don't sell the packs there.
They could easily
I don't
do.
think they sell any of the FFTCG product on it.
But they could easily do playmats or something like that. Like, and I mean, unless there's some kind of copyright thing I don't know about, but I would love if I logged into the Square Enix store and saw playmat options. Like for any TCG, just have the playmat there. I'd use it as a mouse pad. I don't know. Great.
But if I want it, I'd like to be able to get it. You know, there's a demand.
Right. But we are running on a little long now, and I know we wanted to get to Fire and Ice. So you guys want to get into talking about that real quick? And its impact to the game?
So Fire and Ice. Let's see. FFDecks.com browse tournaments. All right. So recently we had a Crystal Cup. Where you at? Crystal Cup, Indianapolis. 80 people, 80-person event.
Damn.
Mono Ice won. Mono Ice.
Shocking.
Ice was represented in 1, 2, 3 of the top 8 decks. It was the highest represented type or element used. I do like this dude's deck named Swole.
Swole.
So that's just Crystal Cup there. Then we have some local events. Let's see, local qualifiers, regionals. Holy shit! So this one here in Game Theory, I don't think it says where it's at, but this local qualifier 1, 2. This was just called No Shame Mono Ice. 1, 2, 3 of the top 8 decks.
This is Raleigh, North Carolina.
Raleigh. Okay, so it's a bunch of ice, couple lightning, and then like some water. That's
a
it.
monster deck. Yeah.
So
Mono water and then Valfor control would be a monster deck.
Yeah. Right. But water was technically outrepresented. Ice here just is used, but top 2 are ice. You know, like they ended up winning that. Let's see, Brute Force Games local qualifier, Ice Water, Ice Wind. Let's see, Water Earth, Earth Lightning. You kind of see Mono Ice ended up in like 8th, but you know, Ice was in the top there. This Mono Ice didn't win this one. Might have been a bad pilot,
good to see.
but Ice Water did win. When the Ice Water and Ice Wind were top 2 there. And then
that deck looks awfully familiar.
Let's see, we got Ice Discard that won at Gamezilla Regionals, and this was just broken down into a top 4. So obviously Ice is winning. We all know why. You can discard, which I think like was unintended. Like I think it intended to have cards that discarded, but I think that maybe the game designers thinking that they draw 2 cards, so we just give them a little bit of discard. Well, come to find out, and even when you discard 1 card, it's a huge deal breaker.
Yep, and there's so much discard support. Like they went hard in like you can identify Ice's themes. It's discard and dulling. Like those are the themes of Ice. Oh, of course, freezing, but that goes with dulling as well. There's so much control over either your hand or either the board, and that just turned out to be really, really strong in this game.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, and just being able to dull something to just ram them for damage is just really, really crazy. And I don't think any of this stuff needs to be banned. Or just, they don't need to shit on the type because then you're just left with another fire. And
Right.
the problem with fire right now is like you get a little bit of it used here and there, like in a deck, like there's a couple little combos that you might splash in. But the problem with fire is it doesn't really have its own identity. Like
Yeah, it's burn yourself to burn the opponent. And I think I said it earlier today when we were playing, or it might have been about something else, but it takes more than it gives. You know,
Exactly.
it always has like these extra, like the new Bahamut summons, like discard your hand to do 8,000 damage, or take a point of damage to do 10,000 damage. And it's like, there's so many cool effects, and yet, just like in Ice we saw they constantly supported the theme. Tons of dull, freeze, discard. And then in Fire, it's the same thing, only reversed. You know, it's like dealing a good bit of damage, but at the cost of hurting yourself, either having to discard stuff, or having to take a damage, or having certain like discard from your hand to make this Ifrit worth even more damage. And because they doubled down on that, they also inadvertently doubled down on the negative factors as well. And so because there's nothing in Fire to offset, or there's not a lot in Fire to offset its inherent costs, it's just not worth it. Because why would you do that when you can pay a few extra resources to get just better cards out?
And like the way it removes and like damage, it just, you know, it burns forwards down. Lightning does the exact same thing but better, you know.
Right.
And,
there's great break effects, there's great damage effects. Yeah, lightning and fire are very close together, and what's the difference? Lightning doesn't have those drawbacks.
Yeah, doesn't set them back, you know. And lightning's got a lot, you know, just like it's just a better toolbox in general. Like, I think the designers here need to take fire, look at it, be like, all right, and like if you have to, like, redesign its identity and push that out, you know. Like, just fix it. You don't break it or make it, you know, overcompensate. You know, maybe it just needs a different way to go about it, or you know, you might have to rethink it. What you did isn't very good. And, you know, early on in the game, from what I understand, fire was very viable, but as time's gone on, it is not aging well at all.
Right. Fire's supposed to be aggro. Supposed to be get in quick, deal some damage, you know, get ready to break some stuff. But like you said, lightning just does that even better. Like, lightning and fire both have haste, both have removal, and fire's just kind of lost in its own mess right now. And one of the things I did think about that's a little dangerous, or what, not dangerous, but the thing that I'm sure they're thinking of is they don't want to, in the next set, they're scared to boost fire and not put out as many good ice cards, because they're always trying to balance for a sealed as well.
Right.
I've noticed, like, with the reprinted evokers, they're trying to rebalance out some sealed things so that whenever you're playing pre-release or doing some drafting, there's a bit more balanced showcase. However, in this one as well, fire was still not wanted. Like, fire was not a strong suit. There were some decent fire cards, but still, people were not happy to pull a Dark Lord. You know, they did not want that in their sealed format.
That was like
not something that they wanted.
That was like a slap in the face to the community.
I agree. And with ice is like, people keep talking about, give me an anti-discard mechanic. Well, all that does is band-aid the problem. Like, you solve the issue, like, short term, but the game's going to keep going on, and those cards are probably going to become useless at some point. So, like, you want an anti-discard mechanic just because you're frustrated with cards being ripped out of your hand. Like, you need to look at it at, you know, a broader scope and see what the real problem is and try to tackle that. And unfortunately, like, what's there is there. So without errating or banning something, you know, it's hard to get rid of right now. So
it's all based on what comes next.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we have to wait on their next set for balancing, and this is where, like, I'm cautiously optimistic. It's out of our hands, and I don't want things banned. So we're just gonna have to hope that the next set addresses some of these problems, and at least maybe not completely, like, bridges the gap, but starts along that path. Like, let fire start catching up, make ice not super good in this next set. Like, Renoa was a wonderful addition to ice, and it's
Right.
very dangerous. So it's just they made ice better instead of keeping it at the same level,
Right.
and that was dangerous.
It saw a huge power boost, which right now I think, as far as the meta goes, or at least the way the game plays, lightning, earth, and wind are on a really, really good spot. They all interact very, very well with each other. They all play at about the same level, lightning being a little better, but earth isn't that far behind. Earth is pretty good. Wind might want to see a little bit more, like if you want to run like mono wind, maybe a little bit more help, but it's not far away. You know, it's not just getting wrecked into the ground.
Right. And one thing I remember reading, and I definitely wanted to bring it up here, because we're talking, why does ice win? And it's not just the mechanics. Yes, the mechanics are what makes it strong, obviously, but ice wins because, or the reason why you can't bring an anti-ice deck to a tournament and win is because you're not going to go against ice every match. All these decks that would be great against ice are, you know, often, if they're not beat out, they usually end up topping and doing well. But if they get beat out by something other than ice, you don't see them. That's why we're not seeing them win, because they lose to other things. And ice is good enough, it's consistent enough against all of the other elements to where that's why ice is on top.
Right.
And that's why everything else, instead of like bringing ice down, everything else kind of needs to bring up to its level.
Right.
And that's what we're hoping to see in the next few sets.
Yep. So what do you think you guys would like to see happen to Fire? Like, specifically. Obviously, we want to see it come up, but
I want to see the hard push. I want them to not release any ice cards next stat. No, I'm kidding. Well, they were sort of on a good roll with this whole Guy Furion thing going on, but then they started doing like more wind stuff too. I just feel like if they did like if they did fire, if they made fire cards and there was like a specific set of fire cards that was released to specifically counter ice, just for like a couple sets, I feel like that would redeem it. But then again, like hope well against other decks as well. But like, I mean, that's what I can think of right now.
This is what the developers are facing. It's like, how do you fix fire? And then there's just crickets.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, they could also get rid of all the negatives and stuff too. Like if they want to make these Neo Bahamut's where you take a damage, then you should make the cost of the card 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
like, you take a damage and you can't use its EX burst. Like, it seemed to be like a gut punch there. It's like, if you're gonna make me suffer a negative,
right,
at least let me maybe get a positive out of it. But no, like, you can Fusoya all day long, and you use it all the time. Put an Odin on the top, Fusoya, double tap it. It's great. Boom, boom, 2 things dead. Whereas fire, it's like, oh, I can deal 8,000 or 10,000. I can't remember which one was which. I think it was 10,000 damage to one thing. I take a damage and cannot use an EX burst. It's just like, well, dang, man.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah, that's I think they probably just overbalanced it. I think we're gonna see them like take the governor back a little bit and let it really like run. I think I think it's a good idea. I think they'll probably take some of those restrictions off and see where it goes. Maybe we get a bad format where fire's putting us in the ground, and we go back to the drawing board and we start over. We see how to deal with that. I mean, like, it's a new game, so yeah.
And there's always like every so many months there's a new set. So even if everything's perfectly balanced with the next set, it's going to be shaken up a little bit later on. And one thing before I forget, because I keep forgetting, whenever they're talking about anti-discard, the one thing that keeps coming to mind is the Magic the Gathering ability Madness. And like, Magic the Gathering has a one thing it has going for it is it's constantly introducing new abilities, like new one-word abilities and things like that, so they can have like a fresh take on whatever rotation they're in. But I love the Madness cards, and they could potentially release some where, like, essentially Madness, if you don't know, it was if you were to discard this card due to an ability or due to an effect of a card, you can pay whatever cost it was and play it instead. So if they said discard 1 card from your hand, well, if you had the resources, you could play it if it was a creature onto the field instead. So it was a neat little thing that worked for you. And if Fire wanted to do that, I think that would be a unique a mechanic where if fire made you discard your own cards, or if they had a set of them that kind of ran with that also benefited from itself, then you could do that. And then whenever ice would make you discard, you'd be playing off of that as well. The only downside then would be you're double discarding your hand. So they have to be very careful with that. So if they wanted to sprinkle in that mechanic throughout here and there, like, they don't have to have a new word for it. They can just say, if you were to discard this card due to a spell or due to an ability or effect of your opponent's card, you may do this to do that. Right. You know, and have that. But of course, we don't want every single card printed with something like that. It'd have to be very few things. And in the end, like you just said, would that solve the problem? It would probably just be a band-aid. And if those cards weren't viable through any other means, they would just never see play anyway. Yeah, so very difficult.
Just because it did well against ice doesn't mean it's going to do well against the other elements. So it's still even worth using at that point. But I think maybe having fire maybe play out of its break zone, like, you know, like returning cards from the break zone to do things or something like that could help it out a lot. Like combined with ditching cards into the break zone out of your hand and then being able to recycle those and play them out of the break zone, being a huge part of its identity, might help a lot and be a lot of fun. You have a lot of cool combos out of it.
Yep. And make things for fire cheaper. Like make some of the abilities for your backups cheaper. Like, oh my gosh, Blake using that lightning deck, he's got so many 2-drop backups where he can just dull break them and deal 3,000 here, 4,000 there. And if he's got a full line of backups, he can destroy my field easily. And then here comes fire, where it's like, okay, well, if you pay 2 and dull, you can deal 1,000 damage to that guy. And it's just like, these aren't good enough. We need better things. Don't break the game, obviously, but give us more things on the power level of Tella. Tella's great. It's 4-drop backup, dull, break, deal 9,000 damage to something. That's huge. That's a really good card. Give us, you know, just more power in fire, even if it's not exactly like we keep asking, like, what is fire's identity? And I guess it's aggro or something, aggro at a cost. And well, give us better aggro. The costs aren't worth it. So make it
even the mono fire deck that I do run, it has a lot of costs to it, you know, like cheapen it up a little bit because the cards are very expensive to play on the field. You know?
Yeah, then it's busting other resources from you, or you're taking a damage to play it.
Right.
And taking 1 damage is huge, man. I mean, it either wins or lose you a game.
Yeah.
I think if you're gonna put a card in the damage zone, then something real needs to be happening. Like a real play needs to be happening at that point. I mean, but if you're left with a crappy toolbox, you know. But yeah, I think all of these like echo the community. It's probably coming, guys. Like, something's got to happen if they don't want their game to die. So, something's coming. They're probably figuring it out. But honestly, maybe they should poll people. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know how well this game listens to its community. It's not exactly transparent in that. We don't have a whole lot of like developer diary type things go through. Granted, there is a big language barrier. So they do a lot of stuff in Japan that we just don't know about because it's a whole world away and in a different language. So it's a little difficult sometimes to get things going on. But they have a lot of faces of the game. I can't remember his name. Starts with a K, but he's at all the events and stuff, and people love watching him play. He loves playing the game with people, and he's, I think, one of the developers of the game. Or forgive me, I know I'm wrong here, but I always see him everywhere, and he's talking about the game on Twitter, and he's playing the game, and that's what we want to see is people who are designing the game, playing the game, or listening to feedback and stuff. And you know, we don't want them listening to all of the feedback because it'd be a jumble mess. But if they are smart about it, and they're Square Enix, they've been really smart about things before, but they've also been really dumb about things before. So we have to be just cautiously optimistic and hope for the best. And depending on the next few sets, we'll kind of really get our opinions together for that later on.
For sure. Well, we're pretty close to time, so any final thoughts, comments, something like that? No? Well,
I'm excited for the future.
Yeah, so we'll be playing and trying to kick some ass. We'll try to get some videos out for everybody. like for the newer, mainly for the newer crowd, deck building tips and a couple of just theory for you guys, because there's a bunch of how-tos if you need to learn the rules. There's rule books on the internet, or rule books that come with the starter decks, but we're gonna kind of come up with some common questions and a Q&A for everyone to really get a good handle on stuff. But if you guys don't mind hitting the little subscribe button, the like button, and just give us some feedback in the comments, I'd really appreciate it.
What do you want to see more of? Do you want to see us playing each other? Do you want to see us opening boxes? I don't know. Just throw it out there. We might be able to pull it off for you.
Opus 7's coming soon, so look out
Get
for
hype.
that as well. All right, guys. I'll see y'all later, and this is us signing off. Bye.